And welcome to On the Hash with Hatfield. We got a special guest with us here on this edition of the podcast. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel on the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. Also, check us out on virginiapreps.com or stream it on Facebook, on Twitter at X, or I should say on X or Twitter at 757 Sports Talk as well. He's the head football coach of the now two-time state champion Maury Commodores, their second crown in 5 years, a 15-0 perfect season as they defeated Stonebridge last Saturday at UVA's Scott Stadium in Charlottesville. We say hello to Coach Dyrri, McCain. All right, so you got the joy. You're ready for Christmas, Coach. It's 10 days to go. So here's the biggest question. Have you got any Christmas shopping done yet? Because I haven't, and I need some advice and tips from my families and friends and people like that. I don't even know where to go unless I get gift cards for everybody.
I'm not even close. For me, it gets so busy with the season that I have to do Christmas shopping here and there. So I might pick up a few things in July, might see something in August, might see something in September when I'm out somewhere. So got a little bit done. I think I'm going to get a little bit more done this weekend and try to hound on it. But I try to do the best I can.
Yeah, that's why I get the bag of gift cards, and then when it comes to December 24th and I forget to get the little niece or the cousins or somebody something, I'm like, all right, they're going to get this whether they like it or not. Ice cream, they can't complain about, free things like that. Let's talk about your football team. I know the last couple of years we spoke about it, the heartbreak at Old Dominion, losing to Stonebridge in 2021, Highland Springs in 2022 at Old Dominion. In fact, I know in the summertime, you all thought, as did I, the state championship game would be held at Old Dominion in Norfolk. It got moved to UVA in Charlottesville, but you were all laser-like focused the whole offseason about, it doesn't matter what happens. We win them 100-0 or 1-0. Even if you were to lose a game, it's all about getting to that date, December 9th, state championship game. So all that hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that goes towards it, when you finally get that done Saturday, I wrote this in our thing on Virginia Preps, it feels like there's a mixture of emotions that, what goes through your mind as you get it done. And, it's not always the prettiest. Sometimes it can be ugly as you finally get it. And you've had these last few days to exhale and kind of soak it in. What have you been processing during this whole process?
I think the first part of it, it's like you said, is what we've been working for. Everything that's, putting the focus towards that from everybody. I think that, the guys playing on the field is one thing. The coaches coaching on the field is one thing. And, you think about the people's families that have to know that they'll be away from their families, and just to know that it was all worth it in the end, knowing why, that whatever father figure we are to whoever it is, if we're an uncle, if we're, a distant father or godfather or father in his own, hopefully those people understood now at the end of that, what all that time kind of was spent on doing and the reward of it. And, as far as everything else, getting there on that date was something that was special for us. And there was just so many things that went into getting to that date. And I think that so many people, I think that we said it so much that, everything was about that date and finishing on that day. Like you brought up, just being a 4 we've won 2 out of the 4 that we've been to. And when you get there and, it's kind of, it's like I said, it's a bunch of emotions, man. This has been 7 years in the program. This is the only program that I've had coach for, and it's been 7 years, and you get there for, which is one in itself. I know most people that don't even get the one at all, or, not even win a regional championship. So, when you're kind of going through that process, as you go and you start to get experience with it, you start to understand that it's not as easy as, people want to make it out to be, or just in general, it's not easy. And to do it, and, we did it, and then we lost 2, and then we did it again. So, kind of that range of winning it, you think that it's automatic getting back there. You think that it's automatic things that you do, you're going to win it. You're going to, regardless, you're going to win it. And then to lose to, it really gives you perspective. It gives you a different perspective, and ways that you need to do things differently. And, but to come out on top that day was just everything. We'd rather be 2 out of 4 than 1 out of 4. So good to be back at that halfway point.
Well, I know you don't do it for yourself. You do it for all these kids. You mentioned being the father figures. You know, it strikes me when you win multiple championships, it puts you in a different stratosphere, a different class. You're not a one-trick pony, or they happen to get one. You're on that list of teams like Phoebus and Freedom. You know, Riverheads had won 7 straight, different classification. I get it. But even the teams that came up short this past weekend, like Stonebridge and Highland Springs, both scoring 34 points and losing efforts to your squad in Freedom. But you win 2 of these, it's a different feel to it, Coach. For you, I know there's no fear in this whole process, but I know the last couple of years you've had some injuries that have popped up. I know last year before the state finals, Peyton Jones and Kendall Daniels went down. We know Peyton's now at Duke. Nathaniel Booga Knox also got hurt for you, a key linebacker, some integral parts to your team. Kendall Daniels was coming off the injury from this offseason. And then you also had Javon Wiggins, one of your stand-up receivers, go down. Was that one of the things that kept you're always staying after it because you know any let-up you can get picked off by anybody. It is the game of football. We're dealing with high school teenage kids here. But what were some of the concerns or apprehension things that you had to really check the boxes as far on this journey? Because, you know, you can't have those distractions or get sidetracked from the biggest prize there that's for you here on December, which you got last weekend.
Yeah, I think it's just, like, it's all part of the process. I think when you through experience of just coaching, you want to be able to learn each year, regardless if you're leaving your season with a win or a loss. You want to find some way to learn and be better. You have to, and I think that's what we've done a good job of as a staff, is to find ways to be better and get better each year. It's not about belittling another program. It's not about um, you know really not about any of that. It's about what do we need to do to be better and how do we get better. And when you add the different adversity and motivation, that just adds another thing to it. But when you add the things of like adversity with the injuries that that any team has faced, you have to know that that's part of the process and that's part of your season. And we've played in December since 2018. So knowing that injuries can pop up, knowing that this can happen, that can happen, it's just part of the experience of knowing that that's the case. So your off-season plan and the way that you plan in August and October and all that type of stuff, you start to plan for those moments just because you know what's ahead and regardless. And if something does pop up, you've already had a kind of a plan working towards that. I know that I've definitely spoken to some teams, after, playing whatever team we played and trying to give them that same advice, especially a team that's kind of new and trying to get themselves to that point or to that stage on a consistent basis. It's something that we've wanted to build and something that we've definitely put a lot of work into building. So we knew that stuff was going to happen. And if you look at even the first part of our season, playing Wise and Springs and Dinwiddie, and even in the Phoebus scrimmage and even Gonzaga way before then, we were playing a lot of those games without, a bunch of the guys that played in December, a bunch. So, trying to find ways of, getting through those games, which those games in the beginning for us were tough matchups. And to not have guys here and there, I mean, I was glad at the way that we came through that stretch because it was without a bunch of guys. And for us, we had felt that before in the previous 2 years and, didn't come out on top. So for us, it's never going to be an excuse. I mean, obviously we want our guys to be healthy, of course, just like any team would. But I think we've just been around enough and had enough experience and been around the block enough to know that injuries can't be an excuse because, no one's going to care. You got to win it or lose it on that date. And whoever's in there has to be ready. And that's how we preach. That's how we practice. And that's how we work. And, you can see it in the last year, like we talked about how Peyton Jones went out. You look at a guy like Melvin Lowe, who really came on the scene later on last season. And then he had a really good year this year, leading the way. So, I trust my coaches. I trust the guys. I trust that we put in enough work to whatever that time, whatever that date is for next year, whoever 1, 2, or 3, they got to be ready.
Before we tackle some of the key individuals here and your journey in winning the championship last weekend at UVA over Stonebridge, Coach, I think we spoke off camera about this the other day that, there's going to be these comparisons made if you finish the job to the 2019 team, obviously, with that group that had certainly some great players with Keandre Lambert-Smith and C.J. Beasley and Darian Varner and Tyshawn Granger and Deshaun Peel and this team now. You can delve into those conversations and give the pros and cons, either side of it. But what similarities do you notice about as you got ready for this season with this team and as you went through those first three tough games you mentioned with Wise and Highland Springs and Dinwiddie compared to that team? Did you notice more things that were alike, more things that were different? And what were some of the things that you saw that you had to tweak as you were going on this process? You can kind of fill me in on that if you can.
Yeah, there was a bunch of things that were alike with both teams. I think that the overall leadership, if I really had to like top one thing, and I know I'll speak on more, but just the leadership of both of those groups and that 2019 team, one thing I do like with leadership is that, having a bunch of different styles, you have a guy who really is not going to say much, but leads by example. You also got another guy who probably won't say much, but then when he speaks, it holds a lot of weight. Then you got a guy who's boisterous. Then you got a guy who is, tries to overly get his point across and maybe need help from coaches with leadership. And I think that it was very similar to this group. And kind of in the adversities that they kind of faced to in a somewhat of a sense. So, I guess the leadership part, you got like a Kazon Johnson and Josh Powell. You got a Christian Murphy and a Micah Coakley. You got a Kendall Daniels and a Keandre Lambert. You got a Torrey Newkirk and Eric Gibson. So you got those personalities that probably are close to being the same, but a bunch of different mix of different guys who gave different spills with the way that they lead. But the thing that I did love about it is that they were all on one common goal. They were all different type of people, different type of leadership, different type of personalities. But they put it together to come to put it together for one common goal and be able to lead the team. And I think that was very much so similar. I think that we were missing that the past 2 years with just the overall leadership and what it takes on a daily basis to be a champion. I think we were kind of missing that. And I think that this group got us back on track where we need to be. And I think it'd be continued moving forward. And then when I talk about the adversity that those guys face, before I got here, that, Maury wasn't a traditional, it wasn't a a Phoebus who's been doing it for decades, or Oscar Smith or Hampton or anything like that. So, there wasn't the recent tradition there to kind of keep things rolling. It was, at the time, it was pretty much not where it is now. And even when I played, we were good, but we weren't this. So, so those guys faced that, the losing culture at first. I'm referring to Lambert and Beasley and Varner and those guys. They came from not such successful seasons. And then, we make the playoffs. HC, I think we played River the first year. We ended up losing that. So they got a taste of the playoffs. And then the next year, we go up and play Springs. And it clearly didn't go our way then. And then, we come back and we're ready to go. And the guys were ready to battle and fight. They had been through enough. It was their time. And they were ready to go. And I think it was very similar to this group. And obviously 2 different situations, because this team right here, the bulk of this group, you got the Fred Johnson, the Josh Powell, Devontae Floyd, Christian Murphy, Melvin Lowe, Andrew McClung, all of those guys who played in those games that we lost both 2 of those state titles. So, and not just on the team, those guys actually played, whether it was starters or time here and there. So, they had been a part of it. And for them, it was, enough's enough. 2 years of hurt. And it's time to get it done. So, very similar in both of those ways. I guess the adversity of wanting to get it done and the leadership. I think that those were two big things. Very similar. The model of the team where you got a really good offense that we have, and obviously our defense being just as good, in my opinion. All of that stuff was kind of the same. But if I had to pick two major things, I would say leadership and the type of adversity that both of those teams face.
Yeah, I think the leadership piece, which I'll get to with you in a moment, was really shown through in the post-game presser with your kids speaking about your quarterback at that spot, which is such a big deal. And Tory Newkirk, some of your veterans talking about just his poise as a junior in his first year as a starter after previously playing JV for you. But, you going back to, you mentioned played at Maury, and, the great guys that you played with and were before you and after you, obviously the Vincent Painters, the Leroy Reynolds, the Cam Chancellors that went on to the NFL, but they didn't have those championships. And I know you guys, you brought up that 2019 team with Lambert and Beasley and those guys in Peel, and they had the heartbreak of losing to Lake Taylor. You had to kind of conquer your own city first. I mean, you were obviously an assistant at Northern with some teams under Coach Cotton there and the OC when you had DJ Mack and Kevin Marks and those standout players, and you got very, very close to championship glory. But, Lake Taylor and Hank Sawyer, he's got a great program, and you finally got over that mountain and you beat them pretty convincingly. And you avenged losses like Highland Springs from last year, Stonebridge from a couple of years ago. I think that motivation factor and those kids getting to that next step was a big deal. Speak on the quarterback spot, because going into the season, you knew Newkirk was going to be your guy. We all wondered how quickly would Daniels come back and how he would perform in the big games. But for you and your staff, at what point did you know not only did he have the ability, but had those leadership qualities and had the special dual threat dimension? Because not only had over 4,000 yards of offense, he had only 5 or 6 picks all year, and he ran for about 750 plus as well, and played, I thought, as good a game as you could have in the state championship, even with a couple mistakes, which he rinsed off quickly and kept proceeding in the ball game. That pick, as you know, early against Stonebridge, a lot of kids would have sulked and not been the same from it. It didn't seem to make him flinch one bit. At what point did you all know, either preseason, a game this year, along this journey, that he was a different type of kid mentality-wise to go with the ability on the field?
Well, some of the qualities, it was kind of seen on first sight. Just you think about the quarterback position. You don't play quarterback if you don't have an arm. So, and obviously, unless you're in a run quarterback system where it's a wing tee or whatever the case may be, but a true, throwing quarterback, you're not going to play it if you don't have some type of arm. And from day one, that was visible with Tory Newkirk, and just going over it through. And he was with us last year, and obviously you see those moments and those times, and obviously, he was back up last year, and stepping up into this year, man, his off-season grind was just so legit. And I again, through the interview when the guy spoke on him after the game, his leadership is it's on another level, and that's why he's special. And I've had some really good ones, even when I was back at Norview, and obviously even into now, some really good ones, and Tory's special. And it's really not even the arm part and his ability is one thing. Just who he is, and the everything about him, the way he moves, the way he leads, the way he holds himself accountable, the way he takes coaching, is just it's different. It's different, and knowing that through the off season, the time and work that he's put in, learning, wanting to get better at the game, not even just the system, or the offense that we run, just wanting to be better at knowing the game. He's very much a student of the game. Even some points where, we get into the season and he feels like that he knows the game plan as the back of his hand, just like me. So, he's a competitor. He's a warrior. He's a fighter. He's tough. The guys respect him. I think that was obviously on display in the interview post game. He's got everything and every tool that you need at that position, outside of his ability to throw the ball and run the ball. He just brings all those intangibles, and we saw that in the offseason. We needed to get him in a couple of situations where we want to be able to create that adversity, and we do that at practice a lot. I feel like that. The same thing with Coach Privet, our DC. I feel like I go up against the best defense, and not even just players, but the best play caller, in my opinion, every day in practice. And I feel like he thinks the same thing. So, um, so Torrey's naturally put in those positions in practice every day. Um, but obviously, when you're going against other opponents in the 7-on-7 phase of everything, you want to see how the response is going to be when something's not going his way, or when things are slow for us, and when things just aren't happening. You just want to kind of sit back and see their response. And he's always answered the bell, which for me mentally, it means a lot to me. And he just answered the bell, and then we get into the scrimmage part of things. He performed well in the scrimmages, did what was asked, did well. Obviously, made some mistakes, just like any kid is, but for the most part, played really well. And then I think of those stretch of those games when you talk about him playing well versus Phoebus and Wise, and then Springs and Dinwiddie, and then into Lake Taylor. The first few games that he kind of got started with, just they weren't games to kind of get going. If what I'm saying makes sense, like they weren't games that you have time to get your feet wet and make these mistakes. Like he couldn't do that. And he didn't have a chance to do that back to back to back to back. So for him to perform well in those games and play well and be poised enough in those crowds, the moments, the situations of those games, just speaks volume to how special this kid really is. I'm glad that he's a junior and that he'll be back. And then you even just fast forwarding through getting to Warwick, a tough defense that, I think at the time I'd only given up 32 points all year or something like that. And for him to come ready to play in ball, and he's our leader, so there was no fear from him, and the guys came ready to play, and he also played a good game in that one. And then you get to the state championship game where um, for him, like we talked about early on, he threw an interception, I think maybe about the second or third drive, um, but stayed poised enough to be able to still make plays and do big things. And one of the things that stuck out to me in the game with him um, was, I would say, two things in that game. Number one, he threw an interception on the second or third drive, like I said, and going into the fourth quarter of that game versus Stonebridge, he had one incompletion and had already had 6 touchdowns on the board going into the fourth quarter. One incompletion. And that incompletion was that pick that he threw to number 3, which is a phenomenal player over there for Stonebridge. So that stuck out to me that, I'm not realizing that in the moment after the game. I'm like, he really only had one incompletion going into the fourth. And the other thing that stuck out to me was, like, I think how you kind of mentioned it, Matt, too, like how he was able to just stay poised enough. There was some mistakes happening. There were things that were it was a state championship game, and that team, they got some good players over there too. I mean, give some of them Stonebridge kids their credit. Some of those kids were good, and they came to play and did some things in the second half, and um, and those guys came ready. It's a state championship game, and for things not to go our way, and for this kid to bounce back and not let the mistakes get in the way, or not let how the flow kind of slow down, kind of get in the way. He still stayed poised enough to be able to close us out in that fourth quarter to then give them the ball back without any timeouts in a couple seconds for our defense to finish the deal. So I just think things that he faced with the throwing the early pick and things that kind of happened, and he stayed poised, and that speaks volume to him. Like I said, his teammates respect him, they love him, and I'm glad that this kid has another year, and I think that wherever he ends up going to school past being here at Maury, I think that teams are getting a guy with this kid, not even just the ability, but his leadership, what he can bring, how he's going to carry your culture moving forward. I just think that this kid's it. Seven's definitely it, and we're glad that he's coming back next year.
Yeah, for sure. He's got a lot of ability that are and some special qualities that you touched on. And I think you hit on some other thing about the competitive nature you all have in practice with yourself and Coach Privet, Coach Bryce, Coach Tevis, that whole staff you have there, and the offense versus the defense. Maybe in 2018, 2021, your defense wasn't able to get those key stops, and Stonebridge outscorches 17-0 in the fourth quarter, but they were able to, keep them from making this even scarier, dicier. You mentioned just the calmness you had because you've been through everything. You've been through these wars of practice, the games you've played. And one of the things that jumped out at me, and you know this, there's three different phases kind of your season. You have the beginning of the year, that first part of the regular season, the out-of-district games you have, which you schedule some toughies, and the scrimmages to go with that with Phoebus, like you touched on in Gonzaga. Then you have the second phase, which is your district slate, and end of regular season before playoffs, which is your third and final phase. But in district play, and you outscored people by an average of 74-4 in district play. And I think you had 5 or 6 straight shutouts there at one point. So your defense was able to lock it down when you had to. And early in this game, you didn't let Stonebridge gain the confidence because you got to halftime 32-10. So people look at the last part of the game and they say, well, they scored 17 at the end, but you held them to a field goal there. You didn't let them get an offensive touchdown the whole first half. Had you done that, and it's 32-14 as opposed to 32-10 or it's 32-21, you don't know how things play out. And I think that might be a little bit of the maturity of your group, that not just did you have it on the offensive side of the ball with obviously Torrey steering it with some other veterans, but some guys going both ways, like your Fred Johnsons, your Devontae Floyds, some younger kids stepping up, like Ike Simmons at linebacker, certainly Ari Watford, a newcomer on the defensive line. Then there's other unsung role guys we've talked about, I think, throughout the year that probably don't get enough credit. The Dylan Goads of the world, the Leslie Hineses of the world that did their jobs and didn't let up, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And even going back to some of that moment, or to some of the moments in that game, like you said early on, the touchdown that they did get in the first half of the Stonebridge game was a mistake on our end. Whatever happened with the snap of hitting one of our guys and then it, roll into their hands. Good play by the kid number 3. I mean, the kid's a stud. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He showed me that he can play. We gave him that opportunity to get on the board. Our defense played well. But again, credit to, the offense and Torrey for staying poised enough to even come back again after that second turnover of throwing an interception. So again, but we were able to stay poised from being in all those situations through practice, through the past couple of years of this group. They've been together and facing a lot of this stuff together for a while now. And you look at like you mentioned, the Dylan Goads who led our team in tackles, or Leslie Hines, who's another one on defense that that people probably don't give enough credit to. Levante Bond at corner. We feel like he's as shut down, and him and Devontae have been starters at corner for us for 3 years. So just the experience that they've that they've had, and the continuity that they've had, those are some of the unsung guys to the names that people like to mention on a normal basis with your Kendalls and your Devontaes and your Freds. And then you got McQuavian Morris, who's also had a heck of a year for us on defense. So those are some of those names that people kind of the normal fan would not mention, but for us they're huge. They're huge, and we appreciate them. And on offensive wise, kind of same thing. You got your Melvin Lowe's, your Josh. I think even a kid like Josh Powell, I feel like doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, he's super savvy, super unselfish, and again has all the respect from his teammates, and he's definitely going to be a kid that I miss. I mean, Josh Powell is definitely one that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, and obviously some of the other guys up front. We got a bunch of skill guys and everything like that, but our offensive line, who always comes to show up. And if we talk about similarities from the 19 and this team right here, it's pretty much that same thing. Where our offensive line pretty much allowed those guys to kind of spin and do the things that they do, whether it be running back, whether it be wide out, whether it be quarterback, just off of those guys being willing to do the dirty work and know that they're not going to get the newspaper credit. So, I just think that, like you said, like we do it on a bunch of phases. It's a bunch of different guys. I think we do a good job of team ball. But those guys buy into the program, them guys buy into each other, and they understand the goal. So, I mean, and it makes it work. And everybody's not going to be the main attraction. But I think the guys understand that. I think if we all stick together and we do what we do, I think that special things will happen like they did on December 9th, and things to happen moving forward in the program. I see us doing things moving forward.
Well, and I mean, you mentioned it with Josh Powell, who's I think one of the biggest X factors in the state, coach. I know he didn't have a catch in the state semifinal game, but I remember writing up our preview saying he's going to make a play in this state championship game. You just knew it because the last 2 years he's been an all-state kid. He's been a return man. He's done so many things quietly because you have so many of these stud guys that get the attentions. When you have the Devontae Floyd, you have the Fred Johnson who's going to South Carolina. You have LeBron Bond who's had a 59-yard TD. I think he's had a touchdown catch in the first quarter of your last 3 playoff games. And by the way, he's coming back next year. But you just had a sense that would happen. That's an unsung element. Your offensive line, the unsung element number 2. And the third thing, which I'll get to, and I'm going to show a picture again, which we had in our beginning slideshow of this podcast, was your special teams. You blocked 2 punts in the first half against Indian River. You blocked 2 kicks that were crucial in this game against Stonebridge with, I think they were credited to Leslie Hines and Trevon Cannon, although this picture says Elijah Moss might have blocked it. It sure looks like he did block it as we show it to you on the screen there. I mean, but your guys, but every time someone's looking to kick the ball, and I imagine this goes back to the competitive nature that you all breed out of them from the summertime to game week to lock it up there as you kick it off, they want to be just as good as the offense and the defense, don't they? Whether it's Andrew McClung, your kicker, or your guys on defense or special teams, the names that are trying to block kicks and return punts or kicks. You had 2 kickoffs to begin the playoffs for scores against Kickinton and Ansman. So they want to be just as part of the juice, if you will, to your success.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of pride on it. And for the block of that game on the field goal block, it was Elijah Moss. The guy who picked it up was Trayvon Cannon.
There you go. Okay.
So credit to Elijah Moss on that block.
And credit to Ray Williams, Jordan Williams, his dad, our great photographer, for getting that shot there, by the way. So
yes. But yeah, as far as that phase, it's taken very seriously. Guys take pride in it. Guys understand that is the phase of the game. We treat it literally the same as we do offense and defense. I mean, through camp, through practice, through when we watch film, it's even. I don't think we third wheel special teams. But that's credit to the guys having pride and wanting to make a play and understanding that it can be a difference in the game. I've been on situations both as a player and as a coach where it had cost us games. So, for me as a coach, shame on me for not having the guys ready or not having the staff ready to take it serious enough, knowing that it's cost myself as a player, a championship or a shot at a championship or even as a coach. So, but the coaches, same thing. I mean, they understand what's going on. They, there's a bunch of coaches who have their own special teams, so they take pride in it. And I just stay in my lane and make sure everything's flowing right. But those guys, take lead of their special teams, and shout out to those guys who, did things to win us games this year. And I know they'll try to up their level next year. I'm pretty sure that they'll be waiting to hear who the special teams MVP coach is this year. I'm still trying to figure that out and gather the data for that. So, their battle was trying to win, the MVP, coaches MVP. So it's going to be a tough one. So when we have this ceremony, they'll find out. But I'm proud of the way that the coaches prepared and that the way that the kids came to execute in those games and those moments to do that.
Be honest, when the season started and your goal is to get to December 9th, in the back of your mind, even though as you see the games unfolding and you keep an eye on what's going on, even though you're focused in your lane, like you said, what next game up, I don't care if, they're talking we're going to see Green Run or Indian River or Warwick or Kings Fork or this team in the state. You're worried about that. But did you sense that you probably would see Stonebridge on December 9th, knowing that the history every couple of years, you two teams seem to run into each other, and knowing that that's probably in a lot of ways, I mean, your last two losses, you avenged one of them to Highland Springs from a year ago in that game at Powhatan Field. I knew your kids would play with their hair on fire on that one, and you got it done. Did you have a sense, even as Stonebridge was at one point 1-4, like that's probably the team that's going to be waiting for us at the end of the road? We just got to get to the end of the road.
Yeah, in some sense, just like you said, like everybody's saying these matchups, and from anybody, from first it started with Warwick and wanting to see this and wanting to see that, and for us, we had to make sure that we were winning to get to that game, and we can't worry about what somebody else, whether they want to win, lose, be in a game, not in a game. We couldn't worry about that. But as far as Stonebridge goes, I mean, you kind of sense it. I mean, if you look at the past, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would say the past at least 10 state championship games in Class 5, it has involved either Maury, Stonebridge, or Highland Springs in some way, form, or fashion. So the fact that, Springs is up in 6, you had the sense that Stonebridge would probably be coming out the other side. That was out of our control. We were worried about just getting to that date and who we were going to see. But for us, just like when it kind of happened, when it went down, when we played Indian River and we got past that game in the state semis, we wanted it to be Stonebridge. Make no mistake about that. That's the opponent that we wanted. We didn't care about whoever was coming out on the other side, but the fact that it was them is exactly how we wanted it to play out. And the fact that we were able to be on the 9th and play that team out from the other side of the bracket and get it done, just put everything in the icing on the top. So you don't really pay attention to how their season first started to play out. Again, when you're dealing with some of the traditional winning programs in the state, just like how Highland Springs and even Stonebridge and even those are the only two that I can think of right now. But taking early losses for teams like that, and even us, I mean, we took early losses the past 2 years, but the winning teams, the teams that know how to do this thing on a yearly basis, that they're going to find some way to get back in there or to keep themselves in there, because nobody prepares for September. And I know those programs that I mentioned, and us included, we don't prepare for September. It's preparing for December. So whatever was going on then, you just know that that some of those same programs are going to be in the mix when that time comes, just because of the tradition, the way that are us and the way that those other programs kind of do things.
Sure. In our last few minutes here with you, we appreciate you coming on this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield on our podcast. Like, share, and subscribe to our Virginia Beach Sportsplex YouTube channel. Also check it out on X or Twitter at 757 Sports Talk, VirginiaPreps.com, and streaming on Facebook, as well as we're going to be on IG Live, I think, soon too, now with our new elements that we are adding. But Coach, you are just 35 years of age. You've got two of these things, which is unheard of for someone this young to have the championships. And I know you're driven to keep it going, keep it, moving forward. And who knows what's in your future as far as three-peat potentially at Maury. I've said publicly, and I don't think you might shy away from it, is that I think college coaching could be in your future one day. You can address that certainly. But I remember you as the guy that was the rivals list, as you at least, as the 5'9", 173-pound receiver. You can dispute that or not. Class of 2007 that signed, you're shaking your head no, that signed with Hampton University as part of a dynamic duo with James Butts that played for the Maury Commodores back in the day. What does it mean to you, though, to win not back-to-back, but to win two of these things, 15-0, the way you did with this schedule that you played this year, and to be talked about? Those discussions and conversations and debates can rage on whether people put you in the top 5, 10, 15. But bottom line is your statistics, your accomplishments this season, this team stacks up with some of the best in VHSL history. What's it mean for those things to be said your way, even though you can't bask in it, you have to be moving forward to the next chapter? There is a little bit of, I guess you can take some satisfaction out of it, right?
Yeah, I think it's both ways. I think you could take something from it. I think that, for I guess the first part of it for me in the top mention thing, I think that, when you start mentioning it yourself, when you have to speak on yourself, I think that um that's just not in me to do. You know, I, I don't need to speak on myself, and it's not about me. Um, my coaches will have that conversation, or other people. Um, as long as my players feel like, that I'm one of the goats, or what, that I'm good with that. And, that's why I want to be. I want my guys to, um, always know that, um, coach would do anything for him and is here for him, and all the accolades that kind of come with that. It's all good, but it's something if we're winning two at this point, and none of the guys feel like that you're the goat, or that you're one of the best, or top of all time, or whatever. For me,
Because
it's
you haven't
very
won with
important
them
for my
yet, right? Yeah, they haven't won one for a year, right? Exactly. I get it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So as long as I'm topping my players, mind, and in their conversation, I'm good with that. Anybody else, rate me where you want, or rate what it's been done, however you want. But my kids is the ones that matter to me. Honestly, they how they feel about the ranking, or where I'm at. Um, Outside of that, with the program to have two, man. Again, like, Maury, it hasn't been in it. It's not the tradition that, a Smith has, or a Phoebus has, or Hampton. Those teams who have just done it over and over and over. So the fact that we're kind of right here, right now, kind of, one, bringing it back from when it was, when, a bunch of the Sazio team that, kind of had their run, and when they were doing things. It feels good to bring it back. Feels good to get it done. It's been 7 years in the program, and out of 7 of those years, um, six straight regional titles. Um, out of 7 years, 4 of the 7 have been spent in the state title game, and then we win 2 of them out of the 4. So, it, like I said before in the beginning of this year, I think everything that's kind of been done in the program so far, all of that was just the building stage of what was going on. So, if making 3 state title games and winning one is your building stage, then I think we're in a good boat. I think everything from this point um, is getting the benefits of what's kind of built. So now it's about sustaining it, which I think is the hardest thing to do, because I think that anybody can have one good year, but keeping it consistent. And I think it starts with myself not getting comfortable, coaches not being comfortable, kids not being comfortable, parents, anybody that's involved with the program, managers, anybody that's involved with the program, not getting comfortable. If we want to do this again, and we want this feeling again, and for us, the goal is to try to go back to back this next season. We have to do that with losing the comfortability. Not to say that we have it, we just can't let that creep in, because then that's when stuff obviously happens that doesn't go our way. So, I'm proud of what's been done with the program, where we're at. Uh, you know, to be in number two, I guess obviously it creates a different conversation. But for me and the guys, for the staff, for the players, and for everybody else, it's how can we get to 3? And then we'll talk about the next past that. So we'll enjoy this process, with the rings, jackets, and ordering that type of stuff. But you know, we'll take into 2. But what about 3? And I think that's where that conversation kind of goes moving forward.
In our last couple of minutes here, we wrap it up here with you. What is next, though, to sort of follow up on that as far as you? I mean, I mentioned that down the road, I don't think it's anything that you were going to shy away from, that you would be open to the next level if that opportunity was the right one. But it feels like you still have a lot of business that you want to take care of it more. You're enjoying your situation at your alma mater that you like very much. And you've checked a lot of boxes. People said, well, do they play a good enough schedule? You beat some great teams this year. You play a good enough schedule. Certainly a back-to-back will be something that hasn't been done yet. You've won 2. What is next for you in this group? And you do have, 8 offensive starters, 8 defensive starters, something like that coming back. So you have a lot of the components that are back. And then you have to say goodbye to some seniors that were very valuable, like Devontae Floyd, who's headed to Duke, or Fred Johnson, who's going to South Carolina, Jaden Ratliff, who's going to William & Mary. But it's not too shabby when you got 2 of your 3-headed monsters in the backfield, as far as Damari Palmer and Leon Clark come back. Melvin Lowe departs. Torrey Newkirk at quarterback. A bunch of receivers like LeBron Bond, Elijah Moss, some linemen. Watford on defense, Daniels on defense, Simmons on defense. On paper, these guys are going to say we're going to be better than those 2 teams, but they have a lot to live up to.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to what I originally talked about, is the comfortability. Like if these guys want to, carry this and get this train going and go back to back, then they'll do everything in their power to make sure that happens. And I have trust in those guys. I have trust in Isaiah Simmons. I have trust in Ari Watford stepping up. I have trust in, obviously Torrey Newkirk and LeBron Bond and those guys stepping up, because now it's their turn to deliver one. I think that, Fred Johnson and Devontae and Josh Powell and those guys, they did their part. They got us back on track. And now it's up to these guys to kind of keep that thing going. And hey, get it back to back. That's a challenge for us. And I think we're up for it. I think that our schedule is going to be tough again. So, people are comparing the 19 and to this 22 team now, or I'm sorry, 23 team. So, what way can this class now get their shake in the mix of trying to get in that conversation? And I think that's up to the leadership. And up to the guys that's coming back to be able to do that. I think that myself and the staff will come back when it's that time, and we'll come ready to work and ready to go. And it's up to the guys, whatever they want out of this situation. It's always been about the players, always. So whatever they want out of this deal and whatever they want out of this year of a team, it's just going to be up to them what they want, but us as coaches to be able to deliver that. And, I feel like that's what's next is, trying to go back to back. And that's going to be something that we work towards after we finish this process of enjoying this one, because we will. We need to. I think that everybody has pretty much earned that right to do that. But when it's time to get back, that's just the hunger of it to want to be back and get there. I think the players will be on the same page. But again, we'll have that meeting. We'll discuss it, see where the kids are at, what they want, what we want to do. And then when it's time to get to work, we'll, put together the best plan for this team to accomplish whatever it is they want to accomplish.
All right, before we let you run, we appreciate the time so much here. I've done this in the past with a couple of your standout players like Keandre Lambert and Sheridan Jones. I have a rapid fire. I got fast five with a Hatfield if you're ready for it. You ready for it? Quick hitter questions? You ready for these? All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Favorite text or phone call you got after winning the state championship was from whom?
I probably wouldn't say, because it's hard to say text, because my mom was right there. She was on the 50-yard line. So that was probably the best. I mean, she probably texted me in the process too at the same time. So I probably would say her.
Okay, go with mom. All right, good deal. Who wins the Super Bowl this year? I want to know who wins it. Who's Dyrri McCain's go-to pick in the NFL, which is usually wide open?
The Denver Broncos.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's going. I tell you what, Sean Payton's done a great job turning that thing around. I wouldn't have believed you when they were 1-5, but I tell you what, people that had them, put some shekels on her are feeling pretty good right about now. They're getting hot. How about the college football playoff? We're down to 4. We're down to obviously Michigan and Texas and Alabama and Washington. Who's the last team standing?
Oh man, I think it's a tough 4. But again, man, a guy that I pay attention to a lot. I think he's done it consistently at a high level. I can't go against Nick Saban. I got to go with Alabama.
All right. Two more. You've hit 3, and I'm with him as my pick. Two more. What is the go-to song? We always see Coach McCain bopping around in pregame. He's locked in with his music. His kids are. What's the go-to? You got to give it to me. What's the go-to tune? You got one. If you got to listen to one song, what's the one song in pregame?
Oh man, I got a couple.
I've been waiting all year for this one, by the way, because I want to hear what's
Man,
the tune.
this is tough right here, man.
That's why it's rapid and make you think questions.
You probably got me stumped with this one, man. I mean, if I had to say one, I mean, it's definitely something with Meek Mill.
Okay. But it changes from game to game. You don't have the same list of songs. It's different songs. I take it. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shuffle list, but it's some songs, and I ask my players this all the time. I'm like, what songs do you absolutely have to listen to regardless of your shuffle? And Meek Mill, some of his intros, and his albums are hits. So it's probably one of those.
All right. I've got a list on my YouTube, but I've got like old tunes. Y'all wouldn't want to listen to my stuff, like old George Benson, Dionne Warwick, all this type, Michael McDonald type people. Y'all be like, what's wrong with him? That's what's wrong with me.
I couldn't. And lastly, some of the stuff with the guys, and sorry to cut you off, some of the stuff with the guys, I try to get with their music and what they kind of like. So I try to get with their style. So, some of their songs, I don't even know the name to them. I know it when I hear it. So I couldn't even give you the name.
Listen, I've heard the same from both my co-host on Saturdays with 757 Saturday Sports Talk, Coach Young, who coaches basketball at Nans River. He tries to stay hip with his kids, which he's an old school guy. He's an old guy. He can't do it. And even our ODU women's basketball team, which I travel with, Delisha Milton-Jones, she says the same things, but her players tries to stay up to date with them. And lastly, have you given Daryl Holly, the number one Maury fan, $5 in a soda yet?
No, I'm getting him something better. He's going to get our championship shirts, and he's going to get a jacket and everything from us, the same thing that we get as coaches. So I think that he'll appreciate that more than the popcorn and the soda.
Good. That's good to know. And listen, he already hit me up for a Virginia Preps Classic t-shirt at my basketball event last year, and I'm sure he'll try to find me again this year when we have it in January at Rerun, because he always loves free stuff. We love Daryl. So, hey, Coach, congratulations. Wonderful job for you and your team to get this done. 15-0 wire to wire. Looking forward to running it back for you guys in 2024. It'll be here before you know it. So enjoy this off season, as short as it is, and happy holidays, happy New Year to you and your family. And we'll talk again soon.
Same to you, Matt. Thank you.
That is Coach Dyrri McCain of the Class 5 state champion Maury Commodores, our guest here on the Hash with Hatfield. We'll take a time out, hear from some of our sponsors and supporters that make it possible for us at the Plex. Stay tuned right here with On the Hash with Hatfield.